But here's why this is so important for us being 10 years full-time in business as a small business and having seven-figure year revenue plus. Statistically, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 1.5 to 3%, catch me, 1.5 to 3% of small businesses both reach the 10-year mark and have seven-figure per year revenue. We've been blessed at Renogize to kind of hit both of those pieces there. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast. This is the podcast where you hear the real stories of people just like you who have become extraordinary leaders. You'll learn valuable lessons from their lives, lessons that you can apply to become the best leader you were created to be. When leaders are intentional, lives are changed. I'm your host, Sean Olson. I'm an author, speaker, business owner, and obviously a host of the Intentional Leader Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. As we get rolling today, I want to say this is a special episode. It is a solo episode. I do not have a guest with me today, but there is special purpose behind that for us. So, 10 years ago, my wife, Jen, and I flipped the switch and went from side gig with Renogize to full-time in the business. 10 years in full-time business. So the first thing I want to do is give a shout out to my wife, Jen. You can see her on the photo here if you're watching on YouTube. But she has been the foundation of everything in Renogize. She deals with marketing and strategy, and we talk about the business on a regular basis. And she's involved in all those things today, and our roles have changed and expanded over time. And it is a gift to be able to have a spouse to enjoy life with, but then also to run a business with. So shout out to her, even though she's not on this episode today. She's a part of everything that is in this episode and the essence of it. So many of you are small business owners, entrepreneurs, and really striving to really drive out there and get things done. So we thought we would do this, 10 lessons learned from 10 years in business, 10 key lessons from being in full-time small business for 10 years. So notice I said the word full-time. Renogize was our side gig for about 4.5 years before we flipped the switch and went full-time on it, but we've now hit 10 years full-time. So 10 lessons learned from 10 years in full-time small business. Now, these lessons are like just 10 out of like so many of them. I could have gone on and on and on, but I didn't want to have you guys on here for hours. You wouldn't hear all that. So I really wanted to focus in for you who are maybe newer, who are contemplating going into small business. Maybe you are employed by a small business, and this will open up your mind to how you can have a greater impact on that company. We're going to just dive in. These are not in order of importance. These are just 10 lessons learned, although I will say this. The first two, I do think, are the first two. The rest of them, any order you want to choose. We're going to kind of walk through the 10-year mark. But here's why I think it's so important to celebrate this. For one, I do a horrible job celebrating. My team will tell you that, and so I need to celebrate these things. But here's why this is so important for us being 10 years full-time in business as a small business and having seven-figure year revenue plus. Statistically, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 1.5 to 3%, catch me, 1.5 to 3% of small businesses both reach the 10-year mark and have seven-figure per year revenue. 1.5 to 3%, okay? Now, if you're looking at how many make it to 10 years, that number jumps quite a bit to about a third. About 33 to 35% of small businesses make it to 10 years, but they're not hitting that seven-figure mark every single year. We've been blessed to hit both of those pieces of 10 years as well as seven figures. But I want to be fully upfront with you guys. We've only reached the seven figures once, and we aspire to keep going after that and growing our business to multiple seven figures as we move forward. But I want to give you the context of that because it's still an important piece and a great thing that we are happy of, proud of, and have been able to achieve. So I say this to say, I want this to be inspirational. I want this to be practical, and I want you to be intentional to make your small business what you want it to be. So let's just dive in. Lesson number 1, know your why. Know your why. Why am I going into business? What do I want to accomplish with this? And when I say the why, it could be a social concern why, because maybe you're starting into a nonprofit. It could be a profit why. I want to be a multimillionaire. You just have to know your why, because your why drives everything. By the way, if profit alone is your driver, there's a great chance that you will not be as successful as you think, because cash alone is not the greatest inspiration to work through all the difficulties of small business. So you have to know your why. So like for us at Renogize Professional Coaching, we had two primary whys from the very beginning. One of those was that we wanted to glorify God. For us, we were faith driven. My wife and I are faith driven in all that we do. And we wanted to glorify God in all that we do. So much so that we have a motto from day one of this business that God owns the business. He simply lets us run it. But we need to honor Him and glorify Him in all that we do inside of it. The second aspect was we got into executive coaching and leadership development because we felt a powerful drive to impact others, to impact people, to have an impact not just on how they lead and make a difference at work, but understanding that leadership and understanding your God-given gifts to influence other people is a driver in all aspects of your life. It's not just at work. So for us, our why was to glorify God and to impact people. That is still our why today. And it drives everything that we do. So you need to figure out your why. If you are truly a solopreneur, meaning you don't have anybody else with you, you don't have a business partner like my wife and I were going into this together, I would encourage you and challenge you to run your why by trusted people. It may be some best friends. It may be some other former business colleagues. Run the why by, let them hear you tell your story, because they're going to be able to listen to you and understand your energy and feel what you're talking about. And they're going to say, this is what I'm hearing you say. This is your why. To be successful in business, you have to know your why and you have to stick to it. Define your why. Point number 2, have a 3 to 5 year business plan, a 3 to 5 year business plan, even as you're starting or before you start, before you flip that switch. Why is this so important? Where there are no plans, people will fail. And when I say a 3 to 5 year plan, I mean with details. We created an initial 5-year plan that talked about top line revenue. It talked about bottom line revenue. It talked about where we're going to be hiring people. What type of clients were we going to be going after? How are we going to refine our processes? So it was not what I would call intricate, because I'm not one of these ultra detailed people. But it was pretty thorough. It was pretty good and consistent in the sense of it was a roadmap of where we wanted to go. Because we had a roadmap, we hit our first 5-year plan in just over 18 months. Yes, you heard that correct. We hit our first 5-year plan in just over 18 months. Now, some of you out there who like to have fun, you're kind of the naysayers. You're saying, man, that must have been like a low mode plan. Like you must have been aiming so low, it was easy to achieve it. Really, we weren't aiming low. I do realize we weren't aiming high enough. It's not that we were aiming low. We were trying to be realistic with it because it was guiding our steps and taking us where we needed to be. But you have to have a strategic written plan, but also understand that that written plan is a living dynamic document, meaning because of life, you're sometimes going to have to change. By the way, after we accomplished that first plan, we created a second plan and we made it more adventurous and we attained it before we hit the 5-year mark on that one, and then another one. And we continue to do that and morph through it because it is a guiding principle. So lesson number 2, create that 3 to 5 year plan. I can honestly tell you that's one of the primary reasons we've hit 10 years and 7 figures is because of that plan. I want you to do the same thing. Lesson number 3 from 10 years in business. You do not have to work 70 to 80 hours a week as an entrepreneur or a small business owner to make it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this for a little bit. This kind of dovetails back to the why a little bit. But there are plenty of videos out there on YouTube and plenty of people on podcasts who are saying, you got to grind. Small business is a grind. And my response to that is, yes, it is. It is hard. It is tough. It's a grind. Okay. But you don't have to work 70, 80 hours a week to be successful in it. My wife and I made a decision from the very beginning. We had a couple different phrases. One was God owns the business. He simply lets us run it. But a second one that was parallel to that was we were going to own it. It would not own us. And what that meant for us was we were not going to put in 70, 80 hours a week. We were not going to be giving up our weekends. We were not going to be giving up vacations and enjoying time with our daughter. And early on in her life, 10 years ago, traveling with her and travel basketball and things like that. We made that conscious decision, and we've still gotten to this point of being 10 years and seven figures. Okay. So you don't have to do it. Now, if money is one of your biggest motivators and you're like, I want to go fast and I want to go hard and I want to make all this money, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. I want to talk to the rest of you and say, you don't have to do that kind of a grind to get there. Okay. You don't have to do that kind of a grind. Simultaneously, I will say this: when you are at work, work. Like those 40, 50 hours a week that you actually put in, work it. There are so many solopreneurs, small businesses where the owners want to bring in all the cash, but they don't want to put in all the time. No, be very strategic, be intentional, the intentional leader. Be intentional what you're doing and put in quality 40 to 50 hours a week so that things can keep on moving. Okay. Here's the point. You can have balance in this. You can have balance in your life. Okay. So over the 10 years, can I say that I've never worked a weekend? I cannot say that. Absolutely not. We have definitely worked weekends. Okay. Now, when I say weekends, it may be 3 to 5 hours on a Saturday. For me, oftentimes it's travel, right? So like maybe I've got to do an event somewhere else across the country on Monday. I got to fly out on Sunday. So we haven't been perfect in it, but that's not the point. We've maintained probably 80, 85% of our weekends and our family time because of intentionally saying that's what we were going to do. Lesson number 4, hire intentionally and hire early. Hire intentionally and hire early. If you have that 3 to 5 year plan that we talked about already, you're going to be having a plan for your business to go and grow. Now, are there solopreneur businesses where you don't need to hire anybody and you can make it? Yes. But here's an interesting statistic. We talked before about people that hit the 7-figure mark. Solopreneurs and like people that just stay as one on purpose don't hit it nearly as often as those who build a team. When you build a team and you hire good people, it allows you to do what only you can do. You build the business out and great things begin to happen. Hire early, hire intentionally, hire slowly, meaning get to know those people, understand what they bring to the table. So our first hire in our business was an executive assistant. I know that may sound weird. Why an executive assistant is your first one? Because I'm not the detail guy, right? So as CEO of the business and running that, my wife is the CMO and marketing side. But as CEO and with coaching, where I have coaching sessions for an hour every 2 weeks of people, and early on I was coaching 30 some people at a time, I needed somebody to order my calendar. I needed somebody in communication with our clients to get all those things on the schedule. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, but you could have used Calendly. Correct. But part of our why was the personalization aspect. We wanted to be relationship driven, and I'm going to talk about that more later. But anyway, we hired an EA. It was the best hire we made. Part-time, hourly. Here we are today. She is still my EA. She knows me inside and out from a business perspective. And she understands when I say something in like short words or my version of hieroglyphics. She gets it. She gets me. She drives things. I don't even pay attention to what she puts on my calendar anymore. I just trust her with it. We also then brought in contractors. Our original contract coach is still a contract coach with us today. And we've been so intentional in going slow in the hiring process, vetting them, making sure they have the same heart as us, making sure that their driver and their motivation was not just cash, but that their driver and motivation was impacting people. But here's why this is so important. As your business grows, especially as the owner or CEO, you need to eliminate to elevate. Eliminate to elevate. What that means is you need to eliminate things that you are doing, some of those daily things, some of those rote tasks, and delegate them to other people so that you can elevate and do things that only you can do. Well, you can't eliminate to elevate if you don't have people that you brought in on board to your team. So a lot of business owners think I need to make sure I can pay for all this before I hire them. My thought is kind of in the middle. Understand that if you make the right hire, they're going to pay for themselves within a year anyway. And so, in a great sense, it's an investment in your business to hire that person earlier, hire intentionally, take your time, and let them take you to the next level. My next lesson number 5, is to be agile. So we hear the words today about change management, and change management is very, very important. And we want to dive into change management, but I'm going to say it goes beyond change management today, and it goes to being agile. We always need to be ready to flex and move and adjust to what's taking place. We were doing that early on in a number of different ways. But here's one thing I would say for you. If you're running the business, if you're the CEO, your role is going to be constantly changing. If you're not intentionally thinking about how does my role need to change for the next step, and what do I need to backfill for my role to change in the next step, you're going to be falling behind. So you as the owner need to be agile. And I'll be honest with you, we're 10 years in now. We got 20 plus people on our team, a mix of employees and contractors. This one is still so hard for me. My role continues to morph and change. I'm continually reminded by my team of things that they can do, not only because they have the capacity to do it, they can actually do it better than me, and probably 5 or 10 times better than me. So I need to lead the way, model the way, be intentional in being agile. Another reason it's so important to be agile is if you remember back to 2020, something happened in the US. It was called COVID, that national, international, global pandemic. Well, guess what? With COVID, everything changed, right? And so one of the things that sets us apart in our coaching is launching our engagements in person. One of the things that sets us apart in our leadership workshops is delivering in person. And all of a sudden, people said, no, you're not going to do this in person. So we had to make adjustments. I will be honest with you. I was not a virtual guy like a Zoom guy or WebEx or whatever platform you use prior to COVID. I had to learn rapidly how to do that. Okay. This is crazy. I wrote my first book. This is how I roll, ROLE, play on words. You can buy the book in the show notes today. But when I wrote the book, This Is How I Roll, it published in December of 2019. Okay. 4 months prior to the pandemic shutting everything down. I wrote the book and published the book to get me on stages to speak. Well, guess what else happened with the pandemic? Stages closed. Conferences aren't going to happen. We can't come together with 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 people for a conference. So we had to morph and adjust. And what we have found in this business is that over the 10 years, that agility to pivot, to move, to adjust is a constant. But here's one thing I want to say really quick. Here's why it's so important to know your why and have a strategic plan. When you know your why and you have a strategic plan, you can pivot with purpose. If you don't have those two things, you're going to pivot without purpose, and it's going to hold you back, and you're not going to become all that you and your business could become. All right, here we go. Let's keep on trucking. We're halfway through. Lesson number 6. Relationships win all the time, every time. Relationships win all the time, every time. It is about relationships. It is about developing your network, developing connections, using things like LinkedIn or Alignable, going to real human events like networking events in your community, be it something like Business Network International, or be it something like your local chamber events. Relationships win. And this goes back to the why again for a second, okay? You have to actually build a relationship for the sake of the relationship, for the sake of the person. If you're going in there thinking transactionally, I'm going to build this relationship because I want to get business, you're not going to get near as much business. If you go in there thinking, I want to develop a relationship with this person because they're worthy of a relationship, business may or may not result, but it's still a win for you because you built out a relationship. Relationships win always. Now, for some of you, you're saying, yes, but we're so technologically driven today. We're online, or maybe we're a service type business. Maybe we are a product business. I mean, that's like on Amazon, right? And so we're a product-based business. We're on Amazon. It's not about the relationships. Yes, it is. Why? Because if you have consistent buyers, what do you want to do? Reach out to them, understand why they keep buying your product. If you hear positive comments, you want to respond to those positive comments. That's developing that relationship beyond transaction, even if it's done virtually. What if people give you developmental feedback, i.e., bad reviews? When bad reviews come through, how do you respond? And understand this, you may never win that person over that gives you the bad review, but you might win over hundreds who look at that bad review and your response to it and say, I like where that person is. I like their heart. I like how they responded to that. So whether virtual, whether in person, relationships win. One of the greatest blessings in our business at Renogize Professional Coaching is that our clients are with us for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Believe it or not, the first client we signed when we went full-time 10 years ago is still a client today. They're still a client today. Why? Because of deep relationships. Beyond that, some of the people from that organization have moved on to other organizations. That happens all the time. Well, guess what? Because of our longevity and because of relationships, we've been blessed with migration business. They go to a new company, they bring us into that new company. Why? Because relationships win. If you want to really be effective in small business, develop your relational skills. Be intentional about it. Understand how to tap into people. Understand how to influence people. I'm actually writing my second book right now. That book is called From Fixer to Influencer, a leader others want to follow. And in it, we're talking a lot about the rules or the laws of influence, of how to influence people, and they want to follow you. That doesn't mean they have to be hired by you. Even clients can want to follow you. Why? Because it's all about relationships. Relationships win. Focus on it, and you'll go a long way. Lesson number 7, know your numbers. If you're a Shark Tank fan, I'm sure that you've seen many, many episodes where the sharks are saying, tell us about your numbers. You have to know your numbers. If you're going to run a small business, you have to know your numbers. Now, when people hear know your numbers, they automatically think, well, that means I need to know my top line revenue and I need to know my bottom line revenue or profit. Okay. Yes, those are two important things that drive our business in a lot of ways, but you need to know a lot more than that. Gross margin, net margin, but you need to know things like, what's my best selling product? What product do I make the most money on? So like in us, we're a service-based organization, okay? So we do live leadership workshops for companies with cohorts of 20 to 25 people. We do one-on-one coaching. Well, which one of those makes more money? How much does it cost us to execute a coaching engagement? How much does it cost us to execute a leadership development program? How much does it cost us if an employee executes around it? How much does it cost us if a contractor executes around it? You have to know your numbers, because if you don't know your numbers, you're going to fall apart, okay? And in knowing your numbers, it also helps you understand what is coming next and how I can do things. And in knowing your numbers, you need to know what you want to do with it. Again, this dovetails to the 3 to 5 year strategic plan. With us, we made a decision and we said that we are going to take our profits, right? So that's money at the end of the day after everything's paid for. We're going to take our net profits at the end of the day. My wife and I made a decision that we're going to do 3 things in equal thirds. 33% of our net profit was going to go to these 3 buckets. We chose bucket number 1 was giving. We're driven by impacting people and honoring God and glorifying God. So 33% of our profits every year we gift to nonprofits around faith, leadership, and education. Our second bucket of 1/3 goes towards investment. In other words, we hold it as retained earnings to continue to invest in the business. That investment may be in technology. That investment may be in another hire. Multiple things. We know what we want to invest in next because of our strategic plan, but we hold 1/3 of our earnings as retained earnings in our profit for investment. And then the other 1/3 of it, my wife and I take as profit because we can. And that's a blessing of that, right? But we have to know our numbers and know where things are playing. And we began to realize in small business, you cannot maximize profit every year. You have years where you invest heavier, which means you're not going to maximize your profit. You have years where maybe business slowed down, right? So 2020, COVID happened. So we had expectations where we're going to be in top line revenue and therefore bottom line revenue that year. COVID happens. We don't hit those numbers. We had to make adjustments on the fly. But you have to know your numbers and understand how those numbers drive different things. All right. We are trucking through lesson number 8 from 10 years in business. Stay focused. Stay focused. There is so much out there today, so much that's new. And the phrase that we use all the time in our business, and I coach leaders around this all the time, just because you can does not mean you should. You have to stay focused. So like for us at Renogize Professional Coaching, we are an executive coaching and leadership development business. In executive coaching, we focus in on the leadership aspects of things. There's tons of different varieties of coaching. And so we will get people coming to us on a regular basis saying, do you do things like transition coaching? What they mean by that is I'm transitioning from this company. I want to go to a new company. Do you help with resumes? Do you help with interview prep? Do you help us with how to do a job hunt? Can we do that? Yes. Do we do that? No. And so we say no to those people oftentimes. Now, when we say no, we refer them to somebody because we have relationships with people that do those sorts of things. But if we were to take on those elements, it would take our focus away from what we actually do, which is leadership and executive coaching. That's one level of it. We also have people coming to us saying, hey, could you guys come in and maybe do a culture study for us, a cultural assessment of our organization? Well, here's the interesting thing. When we do leadership development programs for a company, we learn and understand the culture of that organization and what they need to do to drive that culture in a new formal direction. However, we are not a company that does culture surveys, like online surveys or interview-based surveys to say, here's your culture and what it looks like. There are great companies that do that. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. You need to stay focused, and when you stay focused, great things begin to happen. And as we have grown throughout the years, initially, my wife and I were the ones who were making decisions about our strategic plan and where we were going and how we were going to get there, where our focus was. Now we have an incredible team of employees. And so last year, we did a full SWOT analysis internally with our team. And from that SWOT analysis, we identified some key things we wanted to do in 2026 and 2027. And we assigned champions of each of those strategic initiatives, and those things are being executed. Why? Because we're staying focused. But here's what I want you to understand. As a result of that SWOT process, which took place in year 9, okay, so we've been moving along for a long time. We've been very strategic and intentional. We do the SWOT process in year 9. It reminded us, catch it, it reminded us and helped us realize again, at the heart of it, we are a coaching business. 2/3 of our revenue is from one-on-one executive coaching. 1/3 of our revenue is from leadership development programs. And so we said, as a result of that analysis, we need to really hone in on our one-on-one coaching and the different one-on-one coaching programs that we offer and deliver to our clients, because that is our bread and butter. That is who we are. And it gave us great focus. As a result of that, we have a new graphic and we have some programs that are all laid out now where somebody can easily see the type of coaching we do, what program may be best for them and why. And it helps us as an organization stay focused. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You need to stay focused in everything you're doing, and that's where great things take place. All right, lesson number 9 from 10 years as a full-time small business doing 7 figures. Here we go. You guys ready for this one? Constant learning. Leaders are learners. We need to be constantly learning, constantly seeing what's taking place, constantly challenging ourselves to learn more. Because what we knew 24 months ago is still relevant to us today. It helps us do well and execute, but there's new things happening on a regular basis. We live in a culture today where the amount of knowledge and knowledge turnover and change is happening about every 12 to 16 months. That used to be every 12 to 16 years, like 50 years ago, okay? Every 12 to 16 months. When you think about things like AI and how it's driven us today and what do we do with AI, and even for us, it's like at Renogize, What sets us apart is our personalization, our relationships, and building those relationships with our clients. So we could easily say AI is not for us, but we have not done that. We've actually embraced it and said, how can we use AI to be more efficient and effective and make better decisions? How can we use AI to actually give us more time to build our relationships and be personalized in all of our processes? So for us, we're looking at it as a yes, and you need to look at it in that realm. But leaders are learners. We are in a learning industry. We are teaching people on a regular basis. And one of my favorite phrases for leaders is the best way to learn is to teach. So as we are coaching people one-on-one, as we are leading leadership workshops and teaching cohorts of people how to lead more effectively, as we teach, we're learning. As we watch, we are learning. We invest at our company, and I want you to hear this. This is important about knowing your numbers and your plans and the people you hire. We invest in our people. They have an allocation of money to use for their own personal development every year. That could be for going to conferences. That could be for buying books. That could be for online courses. Now, they have to tell us why they want to do that, what the benefit is to them, because that way we're intentional with it, right? It's not just frivolously going to a conference that's in a great location, but they're learning because as they learn, they get better. As they get better, we get better. As we get better, our clients get better. You have to continuously be learning. I told you before, one of my biggest challenges is learning what I need to do next, what I need to eliminate so I can elevate. Part of that's through learning, okay? As we go through the different steps and levels of an organization, hear me on this. Where you are at $100,000 is different than $250,000 in a year. You have to do different things. It's different than $500,000 in a year. You have to do something different. It's different than $1 million a year. You have to adjust what you do as the CEO. And it's different to get to that 3 million threshold and that 5 million threshold and that 10 million threshold. Constant learning, constant agility, constant change. But here's the best part about our world today with everything online and podcasts and YouTube. Personally, I still like books too. Books are awesome, but you don't have to do it alone. Learning is around you every step of the way. Invest in learning. Invest in yourself, invest in your people, invest real money, real cash for learning, because it will come back as a multiplier, a force multiplier in your business. The 10th lesson learned from 10 years in full-time business: strategic, strategic, strategic. Be strategic in everything that you do. If you're sitting back, you're saying, well, I'm not a strategic person, I don't understand a strategic mindset, go get some books, go figure it out, go learn it, go read it, because you can learn those things. You have to be strategic. You have to be intentional in everything you do. One of my favorite books from a couple years back was by Patrick Bet-David, called Your Next 5 Moves. And that's the way I'm always trying to think. And I challenge myself to think this way. What are the next 5 moves for our business? Okay. And when I'm thinking about those next 5 moves, that's taking me out 12, 24, maybe even 30 months at times. We may not actually make those moves, but because I'm thinking about what those moves are, it gives us the opportunity to be agile and make adjustments as we go. And so we're strategic with that. So today, one of my big focuses is getting on stages to speak, to do keynote speeches. If you'd like to book me for your keynote speech, look down below in the show notes for SeanOlsonSpeaks.com. You can get us booked. Guess what? That means I'm coaching less. I told you guys earlier in this episode that I was coaching 30-some people at a time at the start of the business. Today, I coach 5, maybe 6 people. That's all I have the time for, because I need to spend my time on better things in the business. But that was all strategic. The Intentional Leader podcast that you're listening to right now just passed the 3-year mark back in March. We planned on launching a podcast. We had purpose and strategy in why we were launching the podcast. And at the same time, we're morphing with it. So be strategic in everything you do. Think 3 to 5 steps ahead. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? How's it going to impact us? Strategy wins every single day. So 10 lessons learned from 10 years. But because I'm a giving guy, I can't stop at 10. I want to give you one bonus lesson from 10 years in business. one bonus lesson. Okay, you guys ready for this? So bonus lesson, I guess it's lesson number 11 from 10 years in business. I want to say this straight from my heart with all intent, with all truthfulness, and with all inspiration. Here's lesson number 11. You can do it. Just straight up, you can do it. There is nothing special about me or my wife and what we've been able to accomplish. We feel very blessed in it. We feel we've been led by God in it. God's put incredible people around us on our team to help us get things done. But I want you to hear from me directly. You can do it. You can't do it alone. You need people. You need good people. You need their relationships, everything we've already talked about today. Okay. But you can do it. And I want you to feel inspiration about that. I want you to be courageous in it. Okay. Take a step 3 months, 6 months before you think you're ready for it. Look at making that change and be agile before it's time. Be courageous. The best leaders are curious and courageous. The curiosity is what's going on out there. What do I need to learn? What could be next for us? Being strategic. The courage side is I'm going to take that step. I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to get it done. And I want you to say here that you can do it because there are tough times. Running a small business is tough. Have there been times that I've thought about, hey, let's just go back to doing the solopreneur thing? Jen and I have even talked before about what would it be like if I was executing the coaching and the podcast and speaking, and she was involved in all the strategy and the execution and the marketing of our business and handling our social, and it was just the two of us. What would that be like? It's been a thought, but that's not really what we want to do. But we're also building something that's special because we've stayed focused in on our why of honoring and glorifying God in all that we do and impacting people. And so if I was to go back and do this by myself, through the podcast, through speaking, and through coaching, we might be able to impact 2,000, 3,000 people a year. Today, with our team and what we're doing and how we're reaching out all across North America with our business and now looking to go international with our business, we are impacting tens and 20s and 30s of thousands of people a year. So our why, honor and glorify God in it, we're going to keep doing that. Impacting people. To scale it, we had to build out the business. And it is hard. It is tough. So we're at a point right now where, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm 55 years old. So my wife and I are thinking about what's next in the next 10. Like when I'm 65, I'd probably like to sell the business. I'd probably like to make an exit. And so as I build up my next strategies and we talk about what's coming next for the business, it's continuing to scale it for impact and to honor God, but it's also about how do we exit in a decade? Do we want to exit to people that are inside of our organization? Do we want to sell outside of our organization? How's that going to play? But here's the point. I don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to be strategic and get there. We're intentionally going to walk that path, and you can too. So I want to say to you right now, straight up, you can do it. If you are a small business owner and you're thinking, okay, I hear you, I hear all those things, I love these 10 plus lessons with the bonus. What's my next step? I'm happy to talk to you. I'm willing to offer this through this podcast right now. If you email us at info@renogize.com, and mention this episode of the podcast, 10 Lessons from 10 Years, we will give you a free 30-minute coaching session. And in that coaching session, we're going to help you see where you are, some next steps you can take, and really just we want to inspire you and help you. So in the notes below, you can see info@renogize.com. Email us in the subject line, put 10 lessons from 10 years, ask for that coaching session, and we will offer that to you. I'm so glad you guys listened in today. We are blessed by you who are listeners. You're a part of our strategy. You're a part of where we wanted to go to get our impact out there. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to work with your business, whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a company with 50,000 employees. We work with all those companies in between. We're here for you at Renogize Professional Coaching. Invest in yourself, learn and grow, and know that you can do it. Thanks for listening in to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast. God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast presented by Renogize Professional Coaching. Be sure to see the show notes for links to Renogize Professional Coaching and links to contact our guests. Now, Hit that subscribe button so that you are alerted with every new episode of the Intentional Leader Podcast.